We'd like to know what is good and what is bad. We always have these two concepts in the world. So let's start with what is good. Well, it depends who says what good is and who says what bad is. According to which standards, measurements do we check and say something that's good for one person can be bad for another, etc. Meaning there's no absolute good and bad in our world, unless we're talking about good and bad, which is above any human calculations that we make, that each has their own individual good and bad. So we need to look at good and bad in the measure to which they benefit the whole of mankind, to the measure of their general benefit above humanity. And here we already stumble upon a state where we see that we're developing, that also nature in general, the universe, earth, all of us are changing. And good and bad, then how will we judge? Who is it good for? Or in relation to what is it good and in relation to what is something bad? And therefore we have to examine nature. And because, according to what we see, nature entirely is drawn to a more and more integral state. Like we see from the Big Bang, that more and more all the particles come more and more together, first in the still, then in the vegetative, then in the animate, then on the human level. So what we need to actually say is that connection above all differences is a good thing. And it happens. And it's something that exists in nature, and it's something that has to come into being according to a plan that exists in nature. Like in the past, there were gases, then they shrunk, became planets, stars, etc., etc. That's how we humans are. Even though that we multiply and we're very different from each other, eventually we will all have to be connected, and evermore, and stop with the wars, and stop with all the problems and the differences between us. So, what is good and what is bad? This is something that we can measure if we measure it in relation to the general plan of nature, meaning that connection is always favorable, it's something good, and if we're talking about separation, rejection, it's always bad. Eventually, sooner or later, connection will always work out for the better and separation for the worse. And this is what we measure in relation to. And this is also how we have to raise our children and to try and build such countries, nations, societies that will understand that closeness between people is always good, if it is to the benefit of people, of course. It's said that the Creator is good and benevolent. But it doesn't seem so when we look at the world. We see a lot of violence, evil, hatred between people. So, why do we see such a picture? Why is this picture presented to us? The panorama that we're presented with is really, it speaks of the opposite thing. As if there's nothing good in nature, that the more we develop, we become more evil. And therefore, as if the future doesn't look good. To the contrary, actually. In the 21st century that we live in, that we're so developed, so smart, with all of our wisdom and everything, we really use everything only in order to harm each other. It's a bad sign. And all of it is because we don't understand the process that nature is directed towards, and that we should also be aimed toward that same goal, and only then will we succeed. But if so, why is this evil, if we suppose that there is only one force that's good? Who, if so, created this evil force, and for what? This evil force was created by the Creator, the same Creator that created everything and made everything and did everything and formed nature and decided that this is how we need to be. Like He Himself says, I've created the evil inclination. Meaning that all of us are in resistance and mutual rejection toward one another. This is our nature called the evil inclination, a nature of rejection. And it is all in order for us, upon the nature, above the nature of rejection and hate, to make our own effort toward love and connection, and then will be included both of the bad, evil nature of hate and rejection, and also the good nature of connection and love. And out of both of them, as we will incorporate with one another, we will come to know the intensity of the Creator, His quality, His condition, and we will be in the same state as He is. So, on the one hand, the Creator needs to make created beings out of us, and for that, we need to be His opposite, distanced from each other and in hate toward one another and also toward Him, because He is good and benevolent, and we're the opposite. And on the other hand, we need to develop in us the quality of connection, of love, despite our nature of hate and rejection. And then we will exactly understand one out of the other as the advantage of the light from the darkness, from within the darkness. What is the divine nature as opposed to our nature? And this is how we will become like the Creator, that know good and evil, as it says in the Torah. So Bala Sulam says about this in Shamati 148. The scrutiny of bitter and sweet, true and false. He writes, there is a scrutiny of bitter and sweet, and there is a scrutiny of true and false. The scrutiny of true and false is in the mind, and the scrutiny of bitter and sweet is in the heart. Can you explain the difference? Meaning that some of these concepts are scrutinized in the mind and some in the heart. Yeah, in our world, we really have a scrutiny in heart and a scrutiny in mind. Do I love or not? It's in the heart. Do I accept it or not? Is in the mind. And both of them need to work in the same direction. If this is how I try to connect to my fellow man, then I reach a perfect connection. We as human beings are included of mind and heart, desire and thought, emotion and intellect. And to the measure to which we try, both in mind and in heart, to come closer to our fellow man, correspondingly we position ourselves in a state similar to the Creator. To become like the Creator means to be good and do good in this case. To do good or bad, this is something that we can only if we understand what good and bad is. Therefore, we needn't look at people that each has good and bad according to their own standards. But we need to see what is good and what is bad in the eyes of the Creator. That then we have absolute measurements of good and bad, which are eternal, whole, perfect, that can change from one day to the next, like it is with people. And if we examine it and study it, then we will truly succeed. How can a person measure it according to the Creator, in relation to the Creator? Does he have the necessary tools, vessels, in order to examine the matter? This is why comes the method of Kabbalah, which is a method by which we can come to know the qualities of the Creator, what is good and bad, what is truth and false for Him, meaning in an absolute way. And what is it for us, human beings? And then we see how really we can't come to know Him, we can't understand Him. We always think according to our own good and bad, true and false, which is the opposite of the Creator. And exactly what does it mean? Opposite, we don't know. This inversion isn't clear to us. And so turns out that we're all the time doing something wrong and suffer. And always this is how humanity is advancing, even though that it is advancing, but advancing in terms of taking a step forward, falling, regretting, thinking that we have no choice, and does the opposite. And therefore, we always advance from the opposite to what's right, and then a bit to what's right. From the opposite to what's right, and then to what's right. And even though that we are advancing, but still we have not yet come to, and who knows when will we come to, determining the standards, the correct standards of good and bad. According to a study by the Yale University, people are born good, and throughout life, they change. It says, man's inclination is evil from the start, so they're not born good. What their theory says, or what they're trying to examine, is that people are born good, and over time, throughout life, they lose qualities such as empathy. I look at little children, at the measure to which they want to take for themselves, not to give to the other, hold on to something with both hands, don't want to share with others. I don't see that it's something good. I don't see good. I see the opposite. Little children have no ability to take others into consideration. This is our real nature. And that we, the grown-ups, already understand that we need to share with each other. It's because we have no choice, because we see that it's beneficial to do it. Because, if I won't give him, then later he'll want to kill me, so it's better to give him something, and this way to continue living peacefully, quietly. We are born completely like animals. Wild animals, beasts. No one cares for the others, no one wants. Look at little children, how they use their parents. How they really want everything for themselves, and it's correct. It's nature that positions them that way in order for them to be able to survive. There's no person in the world who's born good, not even a single person, just one. No one. No. We're not born angels. We love them. We forgive. We do everything for them. But if we look at this creature, that's this newborn creature, and how it develops, he wants only for himself, yells, shouts, demands, everything only for himself. Where does he have something good? He lives only because we love him. And only. But as we know, there are up to 10% in humanity that are natural altruists. These people are also not born with some kind of good inclination. No one's born good. But afterwards, as we go and develop, sometimes among us, up to 10%, there are people with altruistic inclinations, which also comes from nature, that inside itself is also divided into several egoistic levels. So there are such egoists that when they relate to others, the way they treat others, their ego behaves in such a way that as if they care for others, but eventually what they're carrying out are orders given by their own nature, that they have a desire to do good to others because they feel good as a result, and that's why they do good to others. It's not that they're doing good to others in order for others to feel good, but because in this way, they make themselves feel good, meaning it's a hidden kind of ego, exploiting others indirectly in a hidden kind of way. I'll do good to someone because it makes me feel good. So there are up to 10% of such people in humanity, and the rest are willing to do only to their own benefit. I'm willing to do only to my own benefit, and I can't do anything to the benefit of others. I can't even think in that direction. It says that I've created the evil inclination, as the Creator says. And on the other hand, I've also created the remedy. Right. The remedy is that when we reach a state where we see how evil we are, and we understand that we have no choice, that we're in very bad situations, and we can bring all of humanity on the entire planet to complete eradication so that no one will be left. We can reach such a bad state amongst us. And if so, we can stop ourselves and use a method called the wisdom of Kabbalah for us to know how to accept others, how to come closer to them, how to connect to others, and this way to correct ourselves. But this is on condition that we really acknowledge the evil, because without acknowledging our own evil, we will not be able to decide that we need to correct it. We need to see that if we continue this way, then we'll destroy ourselves. We'll disappear off the face of the earth. Do people become more evil over time, or is it our own impression? It's like our grandparents say, in the good old days, people were good. People had a smaller ego than today, because we, in our evolution, in our development, our desire to receive is the only thing that develops and changes. It grows all the time, and grows, our egoistic desire. And therefore, from one generation to the next, we become more aggressive, more belligerent, more evil. We see that we can no longer keep the family together, that more than half the families get divorced or don't want to get married at all. Kids leave home, and also the parents don't want to take care of the children, etc., etc. Meaning, we're actually, in these times, we're in a state where the ego is growing tremendously, awakening in everyone. And so humanity, in its outlook on life, on society, on family life, parents and children, on everything in general, is very changing. It's changing a lot, and I really hope that soon we will come to the recognition of evil, that we're evil and we need correction. What's good about being good? In Hebrew, there's this saying that says, I'm not going to be a sucker. It's like when a person shows his good, he's being used. True, that's how it was in the past. Today, unless we change for the better toward each other, we will simply reach a state where Earth will become uninhabited. So the question is, why is it worthwhile doing? It's worthwhile to continue living, but to continue living according to different social laws. That, nonetheless, we're human beings, we're not animals. Let's decide between us on certain laws, relations, so that we won't only have to kill each other and eat each other and exploit each other crudely, but to also understand that we're interdependent. I really hope that humanity will finally start to think about its future. We say it to children, but we don't talk that way to ourselves. So it's to everyone's benefit to try and to come closer to each other. Yes, but it is a very non-simple method. We need to know how to gently come closer to each other and to somehow start talking to each other in a way that it will really cause us to come closer to each other. That will educate ourselves from the inside that it's good to be good to others. Amen. Thank you very much.